This week we're making a really big quilt. King size quilt. I believe the dimensions are 120 by 96, something like that, or 97. So I want to show you kind of my process of what I do, and at the end I will show you the finished quilt. So this is the quilt that I'm going to be making. Pretty simple blocks. But I had to do a little bit of quilt math to try to figure out to make it to the size that I needed. And I'm going to sew several of these blocks, and then I'll show you how it turns out at the end. The first thing that I did was cut out, I ironed all of my pieces, and here's my scraps that I have left. I think I'm going to make some pillows with this. It's really beautiful blues, plaids. I love this plaid. And then some grays to go with it. So I cut everything out, or I ironed first. Then I cut everything out. And according to the pattern that I have, that I actually made up, if you would like a copy of the pattern, just let me know in the comments below. If you would like this pattern, it's a very simple squares, rectangles, things like that. So I cut them, ironed them, and I went ahead and sewed them together. I actually sewed these first, but I did just chain piecing, so it'd be a lot easier if you do chain piecing. Put them on a design board like this. I probably need to make bigger ones. This is just batting attached to a foam board. And I just laid all my pieces on the design board. Of course it didn't fit because this is kind of a small one, but it gave me an example of what I wanted, and I put them together, ironed them. I went ahead and ironed to the dark side. I want to make sure that this is nice and stable, and it won't fall apart, which I don't think it wouldn't fall apart even if it was sewn. I've pressed the seams open before, and my quilt that I have, my personal quilt, that presses all the seams open, there's not one thing wrong with it. Because you're going to be quilting all over. So, but I did go ahead and press these seams to the side. So I got all of those pressed and sewn together. And what I'm doing now is just laying all the blocks out, and I'm chain piecing this as well. So I'll be just doing one at a time and sewing these two together, these to this, and then after I get all of these sewn together, I'm going to sew this to these, which is the long beautiful blue piece. Once I get all of those done, I have about 25 of them. This is going to be a really big quilt. It's going to be pretty big. So once I get all of these three sewn together, then I'm going to sew this part onto these, and I'll show you the finished product, the finished block, after I get done with these. And then at the end, I think once I sew all these together, I'll show you the finished quilt top. Then next week I'll show you how I load that onto my long arm and actually quilt it on my long arm, what I'm going to use, how I'm going to quilt it, and then I'll show you the binding. So I'll go ahead and start working on this and attach all of these together, and then show you the finished quilt when I get done. These are done. Here, now it's time to put this one onto these. So I'm going to go and do that. And then next it'd be that onto all of these. I'm ironing my block together. These are my small blocks. I sewed them together along the seam right here, and I'm ironing together. I'm going ahead and iron towards my plaid side, and this one it's going to be towards the dark side, so that's why I'm pressing these together. Nice flat seam, and I'm using, as I'm ironing, I'm using some best press and just spritzing that on there. Once I get done with that, I will use my clapper. And especially, this isn't big enough, and I only have one of these. I need to get more. But it's especially important to make sure that you use your clapper here to make sure you have nice flat seams. So that just kind of brings the heat up and out of the seam, make it a lot flatter. So I usually put that on there for a couple minutes, not too long. And once that gets done, I'll move it to the side and grab another one and iron that. And then I'll be back to sew my other blocks together. Now this part is done. Time to sew those on there. The bottom row has an extra row of these blocks, the smaller blocks. So I'm gonna go ahead, and there's 5 extra blocks to make up the bottom row. It's almost like a border type thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew these on and lay them to the side, so that way I don't sew them onto anything up at the top, and then I'll sew the rest of them together. So that's it. I went ahead and I got all my quilt blocks done, and I sewed them together, make one big quilt top. Next week I'm going to show you how I load that quilt onto my long arm and go ahead and long arm that, and then we will bind it and get it done. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you like this video and subscribe if you want to see more, and you'll be able to see what we are up to every week, what the projects that I'm making, and more stuff. So definitely like below, check out the description box below, and it'll kind of show you some free resources, and for my website, some links down there, and definitely make sure you check those out. There's some really cool resources. Thanks for watching.